Can I start by thanking the Chamber of Commerce for putting this survey out and giving candidates the opportunity to express their views on where they feel that the business sector needs to go and our economy needs to go over the next 5 years. So, taking each question in turn, turning to question number 1, in supporting businesses to ensure that we don't face a recruitment crisis. It's important that we work with the Department of Education to ensure that our school leavers do have the required skills. I know in particular hospitality and also the retail sector are currently facing problems with recruitment, as are several other industries on the island. And it's important that we embed those skills early in our population. We have to recognise that academic qualifications aren't the be-all and end-all of education. There's also the need to have vocational skills and also have the ability to communicate and be able to deal with everyday situations in life, and that needs to be embedded within our education system. We also need to ensure that we can bring people over to the island, young people who may be thinking of having families, so it beds into the affordable housing policies of the island as well that we need to go forward. Turning to question 2, in relation to supporting businesses and a regulatory burden, we need to recognise that there's always going to be international regulation that the island has to comply with, otherwise we will not be able to engage with the wider world, and there may well be penalties for the island and its economy as a whole. But our on-island regulatory burden we need to ensure is actually as low as possible. We need to ensure that we're also flexible. One of the issues I've always had is a lot of this regulation has been added to over decades in some cases, and it's time that we took a pause for breath and looked at what is the regulations trying to achieve. What is that actually now the case as to what it's doing, and do we need those regulations at all? And I would favour a regulatory review of all regulations across government, because I think we do need that pause to breath and actually look at what we've got now and is it actually fit for purpose. So question number 3, when people were asked to rank their most important things for their business. So a government who listens to business concerns and addresses them properly, a government who focuses on long-term solutions and strategies in addition to short-term solutions, and a government that supports innovation. Of those 3, I think one of the most important ones is supporting innovation. We need to get to a position where we are actually expanding our economy and diversifying our economy. If anyone reads my manifesto, which will be up online shortly, they'll be able to see that that is a key plank within the manifesto, that we need to diversify our economy, and innovation is a key part of that. If we are going to end up with an economy that is vibrant and able to move forward, and businesses are going to be able to expand, then that innovation is absolutely key. And the way we do that is tied into the answer to the previous question by making sure that regulatory burden is as minimal as is required, and also ensuring that we actually educate our children and the people on Ireland to be able to fill those jobs that those innovative businesses need. In terms of listening to business concerns, that is absolutely pivotal as well, and we need to engage with the Chamber of Commerce but also with individual businesses as well, and particularly those that may be in niche sectors, to actually see what their needs are. Government isn't going to have all the answers. We've got to be absolutely honest on that. We're not going to be able to solve everything for everyone, but we do need to listen and see any patterns of concern and address those. The 4th question, in relation to longer term financial support from the effects of COVID. I think once the new administration's formed, we do need to look at the support schemes and what is and isn't available. I'm very much in support of having not so much generic schemes, but schemes that actually are adaptive to individual business needs. I think the generic schemes did see us through the pandemic very well, but I think going forward we do need to recognise there's a lot of sectors that are still struggling. There's a lot of sectors that only just are keeping their head above water, and some that quite frankly aren't, and we actually need to ensure that any support schemes are targeted directly at the individual businesses, not just at sectors, but actually looking at what the needs are, because even within the same sector there's different businesses that actually need different things in order to survive, and I think that needs to be one of the early assessments by the Economic Recovery Group once the new administration's formed. So in relation to question 5, the majority of respondents disagree that they've been positively affected by Brexit so far. In terms of the economic opportunities for Brexit, I actually think they will take several years to bed in. I think that will come from the trade deals that the UK are negotiating further around the world, and we are able to be a party of. So, for instance, the Isle of Man at the moment is involved with the Japan trade deal and potentially Australia as well, that the UK is negotiating. And we should seize those opportunities to allow us access to other markets that will allow for us to be able to move not just goods but also potentially services as well, and we should be ensuring that we take the opportunities that are given. So I would fully support the Isle of Man participating in any of the deals that the UK strikes, assuming obviously it is to the Isle of Man's advantage to do so, and that in some ways is the key thing. With the deal on the table, we do have that ability to pick and choose. If there is a deal that we do not believe is advantageous to the Isle of Man, we do not have to take part in it. In relation to question 6, how will you engage business in climate change and sustainable related actions given the existing challenges? I think with climate change we've got to be practical. It's got to be, for me, cost effective. We can't be spending millions and tens of millions on technology that isn't yet proven. I think for me it starts off at a basic level, and what we need to be doing is providing grants not just to homeowners but also to businesses to be able to make their premises more climate sustainable. So insulation, ensuring that there's appropriate appropriate powering, so solar panels where businesses can, and that's what we need to be doing. We need to be targeting the technologies we know already work. I worry that we are going to pump tens of millions of pounds into things that 10 years time we'll find aren't actually the things that we need to do. So the example I give of that is the 1980s, the VHS Betamax situation, where everyone thought it was going to be Betamax. It ended up being VHS, and we've got to be sure that taxpayers' money is targeted accordingly. But there does need to be business support, just as there actually needs to be support for homeowners privately to be able to adapt to climate change. In relation to question 7, how do you propose to support and enthuse businesses to take more climate-friendly and sustainable approach in light of the limited impact the Biosphere Pledge has had on businesses so far? I think in relation to that, we need to show what the advantages are for business. We need to be able to show that, for instance, their bills could become cheaper if certain things are done to their building, that it may actually be something the consumers may well look for in the future. In the same way, for instance, when you go to restaurants and so on in the UK, people sometimes look at the food ratings. You may well have a situation where in years to come, people will actually register businesses against what they've done in terms of climate change. And I think the key thing is that there's a social benefit as well for businesses to be involved in the climate change agenda. Eventually, let's be honest, the way things are going with climate change, it's likely to be regulatory anyway. So I think the big advantage to businesses, and indeed us homeowners in the private sector, is to get ahead of the game, but we need grant support to be able to do that. And I think that's important, that we look, again tying in with the previous question, at what's actually practical and deliverable now. In terms of question 8, what actions will you take if elected to ensure the island maintains a diverse economy which attracts new talent and ensures there are relevant sectors for returning graduates? We're not going to have all sectors for all graduates. We need to be honest about that. We're a small jurisdiction. But I think in terms of diversification, we need to be looking at the sectors that we already have, ensuring that they are robust and have support, but then looking at what else is out there. We should be selling ourselves as an island of innovation. We should be a low regulatory island where regulation is proportionate, and ensuring that it's a good place for families to actually grow up. So again, it ties in with other policies like affordable housing, because without those we will not encourage people back to the island. So if we get those policies right, then that also gives us an opportunity to actually get people back onto the island and involved in the business community. We also need to actually incentivise startups. Big businesses were originally small businesses, and we need to not forget and lose sight of that, and ensure that those that want to start a new business can actually do so, and can do so with confidence. Well, I think that's my 10 minutes nearly up. I'm about 20 seconds to go. So that was a bit of a whistle-stop tour. If anyone has any further questions, please feel free to contact me. It's a bit hard to keep it to 10 minutes for those questions, but thank you for your time.